break down that situation that happened.
Yeah. So in basketball a little bit, there's things called talking, what you like to call smack or whatever everybody likes to call it.
Yeah.
Plays before things are said, you know, that's a part of basketball.
After months of complete silence, nothing, not a tweet, not a comment, she finally broke it all down. And she didn't just explain what happened with Caitlin Clark. She justified it. Like, straight up doubled down on what everybody saw with their own eyes.
This Caitlin Clark situation, Chennedy Carter just jumped out the window and justified an assault on Caitlin Clark.
And get this, she's out here calling it just basketball. A little "I'm here" tap. Meanwhile, Clark hit the hardwood like a bowling pin and just got up like it was nothing. Now listen, we're not here to cancel anybody, but if you think this was just a random foul in a regular game, you haven't seen the whole picture. Because what Chennedy said, how she said it, and when she chose to finally say it, there's a lot more going on here than just smack talk. So in this video, we're diving all the way in. The footage, the fallout, the league's reaction, and why this interview might have just sealed her fate. Let's break it down. All right, let's rewind the clock real quick. Because to understand why this moment blew up the way it did, you gotta see exactly how it went down. It's June, regular season matchup between the Chicago Sky and Indiana Fever. Nothing out of the ordinary until it was. Caitlin Clark had just hit a bucket. Clean play, standard transition. She's jogging back on defense, head turned, completely unaware of what's about to come. Then, from the opposite side of the court, here comes Chennedy Carter. Now she's not following the ball. She's not picking up a defender. She's not even glancing at the action happening elsewhere. She veers directly toward Clark. You can literally see it on the replay. She lines her up like a linebacker and bang, drops a full body shoulder. Check that sends Clark sprawling to the floor. And here's the wild part. This wasn't some clumsy collision or aggressive box out. There was no basketball reason for that move. It was off ball, post shot, and 100% intentional. The refs? They called it a common foul at first, like it was just one of those bump into each other moments. But the second they went to the monitor and saw it in slow motion, immediate upgrade to a flagrant. No hesitation, and the body language says it all. Carter doesn't help her up. She doesn't even look concerned. She walks away like it was just another play in the game. Clark? She pops back up. No theatrics, no complaints, just brushes it off and keeps moving. Which, let's be real, is part of why people are writing so hard for her. That poise, that composure, that's how you win fans and respect. But the internet, the commentators, the fans in the arena, they weren't brushing it off. People saw what it was immediately. A blatant, personal shot, and not just on the scoreboard. That one play, that one moment, completely shifted the narrative on Chennedy Carter. Not because she played physical, but because she crossed the line between competition and cheap shot. And here's where it gets even deeper. Because that one foul wasn't just a bad decision. It became the defining moment of her season, and maybe her entire WNBA career. Now, here's where it gets real interesting. Because after all that chaos on the court, after the replays, the think pieces, the league reviews, Chennedy Carter went silent. Like, completely ghosted the whole situation. She was asked about it in post-game pressers right after the incident, and her response? Straight up, no Caitlin Clark questions. That was it. Full stop. No clarification, no apology, no explanation, nothing. And for months after that, still no word. And let's be honest, silence can be powerful. It can mean you're letting your game talk for you. It can mean you're waiting for the right moment. Or it can mean you're trying to wait for the heat to die down before you say something that might come back to bite you. But now, nearly a year later, just days before WNBA training camps are set to open, and Chennedy Carter still doesn't have a team, suddenly, she's ready to talk. And not just talk. She sits down for a full interview with streamer Neon and drops her version of events. Finally. But here's what makes people raise an eyebrow. This interview didn't feel like a heartfelt confession. It felt like a PR move. The league's heating up. Roster spots are disappearing. And here comes Carter, casually brushing the whole thing off like it was just a little on-court bump. She says something like, "It wasn't even that deep. I hit a shot, and I just gave her a little, 'I'm here' nudge. It happens, basketball's competitive. But yo, the timing of this couldn't be more suspicious. You've had months to speak on this. You wait until the week before camp? The same week every team is locking in final rosters and you're still unsigned? Come on, you don't need a PR degree to see what's happening here." The way she framed it, like it was just heat of the moment energy, would probably hit differently if she hadn't dodged every question since day one. But now, when your career's on the ropes, Now you want to clear the air? And that's why fans, analysts, even other players aren't buying it. Not because they're anti-Carter, but because this move looks less like clarity and more like damage control. And it gets even wilder when you hear what she actually said in that interview. Because that just basketball explanation? Yeah, let's talk about that next. Alright, so let's talk about what Chennedy Carter actually said, because this is where everything starts to unravel a bit. In that interview with streamer Neon, Carter finally opens up about the incident, kinda. She starts off pretty casually, like this was just any other play in a physical game. She says, and I'm paraphrasing here, I hit a little mid-range pull-up, came down the court, and gave her like a little I'm here energy. That's it. It wasn't meant to harm her or anything. She even brings up a random NBA comparison, like Jeff Teague bumping LeBron out of bounds, saying stuff like, I was mad because we couldn't stop her. That's all it was. It happens. And at first you might hear that and go, okay, maybe it really was just heat of the moment. But then you remember the actual footage and it's like, nah, because what we saw, that wasn't I'm here energy. That wasn't your average chest bump after a tough shot. This was a blindside shoulder check. No basketball play happening, no defense being played, no ball even nearby. It was deliberate. And Carter's interview? It wasn't just chill, it was almost dismissive. Like she was surprised people were still talking about it. Like it wasn't a big deal. People took it and ran with it. It's just part of the game. But here's the thing. If it was just part of the game, why did the refs upgrade it to a flagrant? Why did the entire basketball world explode in outrage? Why are we still talking about it nearly a year later? Because it wasn't just basketball. Even more confusing, Carter suddenly claims she might have been elbowed before the play, says maybe there was some smack talk, maybe she was reacting to that. But this is where things really start to fall apart, because no one saw an elbow. There's no footage, no clip, no angle that shows her being hit or provoked. This elbow she mentions just kinda shows up now, after months of silence, as part of her narrative, and fans caught it immediately. Social media lit up with side-by-sides of her statement versus the actual play, and people weren't having it. One comment nailed the vibe. So she got elbowed, didn't react in the moment, waited a play or two, scored, then crossed the court to hit Clark? Yeah, okay. Look, it's not even about hating on Carter. It's about how obvious the gap is between what she's saying and what actually happened. And that's the problem. When your explanation doesn't match the video, and your tone sounds like you're just brushing it off, it doesn't sound like an explanation. It sounds like damage control, and that's why so many people are saying, this isn't about a foul anymore. This is about accountability. But what makes this whole thing even more complicated? Carter has a history of this type of stuff, and that's exactly what we're getting into next. So now we've seen what happened. We've heard Carter's side. We've looked at her history. But the next question is bigger than her. Why does this matter so much right now? Well, here's the thing. This isn't just about one foul. The WNBA is at a major turning point. We're talking historic viewership, packed arenas, record-breaking jersey sales, corporate sponsorships rolling in, and let's be real, Caitlin Clark is at the center of a lot of that. Whether you love her game or think she's overhyped, the impact is undeniable. She's bringing millions of new eyes to the league. She's the storyline, and the WNBA knows it. They've never had a star with this much crossover appeal, this early. So when Carter body-checked Clark on national TV, that wasn't just one player fouling another. That was a message, intended or not, that the league might not be doing enough to protect its most valuable asset. And in this current era of explosive growth, that's a major problem. Because when a league starts to take off like this, especially one that's been fighting for mainstream attention for decades, everything changes. The standard for professionalism goes up, the consequences for behavior go up, and the spotlight, it gets a whole lot brighter. That's why what Carter did wasn't treated like just another flagrant foul. It became a symbol. It forced the league to make a choice. Do we let this slide? Or do we draw a line in the sand and say, this isn't who we are anymore? And the answer came pretty quickly. No suspension for Clark. No league-wide punishment for Carter. But also, no roster spot. No interest. Total silence from every single franchise. That silence? That's louder than any fine or penalty. That's the WNBA sending a message without even putting out a statement. It's the league saying, if you can't represent what we're building right now, if you can't be part of this new era, we're not going to risk our momentum for you. And it's not just about protecting Clark. It's about protecting the league's image, its future, its values. Because let's be honest, there's a new standard in the W. A star like Caitlin Clark brings a spotlight, and with that comes a different level of expectation for everyone on the court. You can be fiery, you can talk your talk, but when that passion crosses the line into aggression, and especially when you don't own it, the consequences hit way harder. That's where Carter finds herself now. Not because she fouled someone, but because she tried to spin it like it didn't matter, while the entire league was watching. And what comes next? That depends on how she handles the fallout. But first, let's talk about why she's still unsigned, and what that silence from 12 teams is really saying. Alright, let's address the elephant in the room. Why is Chennedy Carter still unsigned? Because from a pure hoop standpoint, she's a bucket. Like, legit. She averaged 17.5 points per game, that's instant offense. There are players with half those numbers getting camp invites and guaranteed deals. So what gives? Well, the short answer? Trust. The long answer? Let's talk about why nobody's willing to bet on her right now. Start with the Chicago Sky, her last team. They didn't just let her walk. They didn't even offer her a qualifying contract. That's like the NBA equivalent of saying, "We're good. No thanks." Even if you don't plan to keep a player, most teams will throw that out just to retain negotiating rights or get something in return. Not Chicago, they just moved on. And what did the GM say when asked about it? Something super corporate like, changes to the staff and roster impacted her fit with the team. Translation? We're building something new and she didn't fit the culture. Behind the scenes? It was deeper than that. Reports started leaking. Stuff about tension in the locker room, teammates getting fed up, leadership not trusting her in high-pressure moments. One anonymous exec even said, "We wouldn't touch her with a 10-foot pole." That's brutal. But also, that tells you everything you need to know, because in professional sports, especially in a league as tight-knit as the WNBA, reputation spreads fast. Front offices talk, coaches talk, players talk, and when someone gets labeled as a locker room problem, that label sticks. Especially now, the league is trying to create a culture of professionalism, unity, and marketability. It's not just about dropping 20 a night. It's about being someone a team can trust, on and off the floor. And if there's even a whiff that you're the type to start drama, clash with teammates, or blindside another player on national TV, that's enough to scare people off, especially when that player you hit just so happens to be the face of the league. It's also about optics. No team wants to be the one that gives a controversial player a second chance, right when the league is exploding with attention. Imagine signing Carter and the headline isn't Chennedy Carter joins team, it's team signs player who attacked Caitlin Clark. That's not the headline anyone wants during training camp hype. So now, you've got 12 teams all building chemistry, all trying to ride this wave of new fans and positive press. And Carter, she's not part of any of it. No invites, no workouts, no leaks, just silence. And that silence is louder than anything she could say in an interview. Because if this was really about just one play, she'd be signed already. This isn't about one play. It's about the pattern. It's about trust. And right now, no team's willing to roll the dice. But what makes this situation even crazier? It's not just about team vibes, it's also about the league's timing and the massive growth it's experiencing right now. And that's exactly where we're going next. So now we've got to talk about the bigger picture. Because Chennedy Carter, she's talented. That part's never been up for debate. From the moment she stepped into the league, it was clear she can score with the best of them. Pure offense, instant heat check. The kind of player who, on paper, should be in. I demand, but here's the truth. Talent isn't enough. Not anymore. Not in today's WNBA. Because in pro sports, especially in a league that's finally getting the spotlight it's deserved for years, teams aren't just looking for stats. They're looking for leaders, professionals, and teammates they can build something around. You can be the most gifted scorer on the planet, but if coaches don't trust you, if teammates don't want to share the locker room with you, if execs are constantly cleaning up messes, eventually, the talent gets overshadowed by the baggage. And that's exactly what's happening with Chennedy Carter. What's wild is, she's not being outplayed. She's being out-respected. Players with fewer points per game, smaller followings, less flash, they're getting contracts. Why? Because they show up, they work, they elevate the people around them, and they stay out of the headlines. Basketball is a team sport. Chemistry matters, culture matters. And the WNBA, now more than ever, is putting a premium on players who represent the league well, on and off the court, especially with someone like Caitlin Clark in the picture. She's not just a player, she's a movement. She's bringing new fans, national coverage, international interest, and every league that's grown into a global brand, NBA, NFL, UFC, they all have one thing in common. They protect their stars. So when someone takes a shot, literally or figuratively, at that star and then refuses to own it, that's a huge red flag. Not just for one team, but for the entire business side of the league. And that's why Carter's situation is so unique. It's not just about whether she deserves another shot, it's about what message that shot would send, do, You reward someone who refuses to take accountability? Or do you draw the line and say, this isn't who we are anymore? Right now, the league is answering that question in real time. And whether Carter realizes it or not, her career is becoming a case study on where the WNBA is headed and what kind of player it's willing to invest in. She's still got time, but that window, it's getting smaller by the day. And what we're seeing now, as camps open and rosters lock in, is a clear shift. Skill gets you in the door. Character decides if you stay. So now we've seen it all, from the footage to the fallout to Carter's last-minute explanation and everything in between. She had the talent. No one's questioning that. But time and time again, it wasn't her jumper or her handles that held her back. It was the way she handled the moments off the ball, the moments that tested her character, not just her game. And now, with training camps officially underway, and not a single team even whispering her name, this might be the clearest message yet. It's not about punishing someone forever for one mistake. It's about accountability. It's about showing that you've grown, that you get it. And Chennedy Carter, she had that chance. She just used it to downplay everything we all saw with our own eyes. The WNBA is leveling up. It's hitting a new gear. And in this new era, the league's making one thing crystal clear. If you're gonna be here, you gotta bring more than buckets. You gotta bring respect for the game, your teammates, and the moment. But now I wanna hear from you. Was Carter unfairly targeted? Is this just the league protecting its star, or did she write her own ticket out by refusing to own what she did? Let's talk about it in the comments. And hey, if you found this breakdown helpful, make sure you hit that like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next deep dive. Click the video on screen now for more WNBA coverage, and we'll catch you in the next one.